What's up, everyone? I'm at Maui Beach on the Big Island of Hawaii, and today we're talking about 3 things that growing up on the Big Island taught me about entrepreneurship and happiness. But before we do that, I need to take a dip. Phew! All right, much better. Now let's start talking about happiness. So when I tell people that I grew up in Hawaii, I spent almost my entire childhood out here, moved here from California, Northern California. When I tell people that, like at my school in Boston, Babson College in Boston, which has people from all over, but pretty much anyone, you tell them you're from Hawaii and they kind of freak out. They're like, oh my God, you're so lucky, it's so beautiful, it's like, must be so nice living there, I'm so jealous. And that's all true, and I'm not gonna deny any of that in this video. But the first point I'd like to hit on is regarding happiness and location. I feel like people assume that since you live in such a beautiful place, in this case Hawaii, that you just must naturally be happier. And while I think that there is some to that, like sure, location matters for sure, I don't think it's as big of a factor as people think. I know plenty of unhappy people that live in Hawaii. You can still be unhappy and live in a beautiful place. I think that just like anything else in your life, and because of our psychology, we just adapt to things. If I am used to going to the beach 3 times a week and seeing beautiful mountains all around me when I wake up, I'm gonna get used to that. And it's gonna take constant, intentional gratitude and appreciation and noticing and being thankful for those things for it to actually make a consistent, lasting effect on my happiness and my well-being throughout my life. I think that the biggest argument in favor of the environment affecting your happiness is the fact that here in Hawaii, you get outside a lot more because it is so much warmer and you can go to the beach and just be outside moving and in the sun. And I think that those 2 things, exercise and sunlight, have a lot more to do and actually can be strongly correlated with your happiness. So that's where I agree that the environment does help your happiness, but you could get those things in a lot of places. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful place for you to go run outside and go tan in the sun, you know? Hawaii is good for that, yes, but it's not the only place. Also, just FYI, I talk a lot more about this idea of location and its effect on happiness and if it's really necessary to live in a really nice place in my video on living in Mexico City as a digital nomad, which you can find in one of these corners. And that talks a lot more also of my experience in Mexico and why I also kind of hate, I disagree with the idea that location is super, super important to living a happy life. Now, my second thing that I learned growing up here on the Big Island is also related to happiness, and it has to do with knowing how much is enough. I feel like most people, and that includes a lot of people in Hawaii, but most people, including myself, don't know how much is enough. Because to know how much is enough, you also have to know, therefore, how much is too much. And this could be how much money, how much fame, how much your business is doing in revenue, any of these things. You need to know how much is enough. And the reason I say that growing up in Hawaii does help with that is because you meet a lot of people here who are just chill. They just have simple lives, they have families, they love their families, they spend a lot of time with them, and they have something that they do to provide for them, and other than that, they're good. They have some friends, their brothers, they have their family, their aunties, their uncles, and it's just a simple life. And me seeing that and kind of being surrounded by that as I was growing up made me realize that, oh, you don't necessarily need to go and do all these things and achieve all these things for you to have a great life and actually be happy and content and satisfied with what you've done. And I feel like if I had grown up in a city or somewhere a little more ambitious, per se, not as slow-paced, faster-paced place, I wouldn't have had that in my life. And I wouldn't have gotten that exposure to see that, oh, you don't have to go super hard. You don't have to be just never-ending ambition, always looking to achieve. You can be happy and content with a relatively simple life. And it's really up for you to find that balance for you. How I started it, having to find for yourself what is enough, and therefore finding what's too much and getting that balance. So Hawaii, I do have to give a lot of credit for showing that to me from an early age. And my third and final thing that growing up in Hawaii taught me is about entrepreneurship. And it's the fact that no opportunity is actually a good thing. Now hear me out on this one. The big island of Hawaii does not have a lot going on. It's pretty slow paced. It's, you know, people are gonna be late to pretty much everything. It's hard to get a lot of really good workers. There's just not a lot going on. There's not a lot of jobs for someone like me who's halfway through college, at business school, and you know, internships are like on the horizon as something to maybe think about. I'm not really considering coming back to Hawaii for anything like that because there's not a lot of companies here. There's not a lot of industry here outside of tourism. So there's two ways of looking at that. One, you could say there's no opportunity. I can't get any jobs anywhere. I can't get any good internships. No one is available. No one's providing the opportunity for me to go work for them. And that's kind of saying like, for me, that's not the route I like to take. The route I like to take, and the other perspective, maybe the optimist perspective and the entrepreneurial perspective is, holy crap, there is no supply. There's so many tourists coming in. There's so many people moving here. But there's no supply, there's so few businesses, there's no industry, there's no opportunities to work, but what if I can create my own business? There's no competition. So therefore, you start a business in an area that's needed, in a niche that has a lot of demand, but not a lot of supply, which is easy to find, and right off the bat, as long as you do a good job, you've already got a decently successful business. That's what I started doing when I came back here after my first year at college. I didn't go and try to get a job again. I had already worked at restaurants in the tourism industry. I'd done that, but I came back and I realized, wow, there's like no one doing the digital marketing or social media advertising that I was planning on doing. So I started reaching out and cold calling all these businesses and doing a little freelancing. I got a couple clients, I built some websites, and then I slowly started doing social media advertising, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, all this stuff. And I built up a solid little freelancing / solo business that I still run to this day and has allowed me to travel to, like I mentioned earlier, Mexico and Costa Rica and other places. So I feel like Hawaii, maybe Hawaii didn't directly teach me that. It might have been the people in my life and the information I consumed, but Hawaii really made that clear to me. It's like no competition is probably the most important thing. The fact that there aren't opportunities for jobs and internships and like existing places that you can go and get hired and get good money doesn't matter for an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur is someone who sees that as a problem and then creates a solution for it. Oh, there's no jobs? I'm gonna create my own business. I'm gonna find a way to address some demand, because there's plenty of demand. I'm gonna find a way to address that and build a business around it. So I feel like Hawaii was really helpful for me in developing that mindset and actually providing a playground and a place for me to test those ideas and learn how to be an entrepreneur. And that just about sums it up. Those are the three things that growing up in Hawaii taught me about happiness and entrepreneurship. And I really hope you got some value out of them. They were talking about how location is like not as important as people think. The fact that no opportunity and jobs is really that big of a deal. It's actually can be a good thing. And the fact that you need to know how much is enough. To really like be consistently happy and content with your life, you need to figure out for yourself how much is enough and what's too much. I hope that those were valuable to you in some way. If you are interested in this kind of content around happiness and entrepreneurship and kind of like traveling, I guess, a little bit, digital nomad lifestyle, I make a lot of videos around this kind of content, so go ahead and check out my channel. If you know someone else who would find this video helpful, maybe they're always thinking about Hawaii, they want to move there, or just travel and they're obsessed with Hawaii, send this their way. They get some insider's point of view on its effects on happiness and all that stuff. With that said, please leave a like if you enjoyed, comment down below, let me know what you think, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching and take care everyone. Mahalo.